unless there's something you all want to tell us before we get started, let's get started with the PowerPoint or Google slide. Okay, you starting? Screen share.
All right.
That's your PDF. Is it? Yeah. That's where you have it. Print. You want me to fix it for you?
Sure.
Okay.
We'll stop screen share if you're gonna.
You want me to stop screen share? Okay.
Oh, I know what it was. It's because of how it's
Yeah,
printed.
yeah, it's your printing.
Sorry. So sorry. It's my print version that came up first.
Let's see. There we are. Okay. Now you need to share again.
Go back over here.
Takes two of us to run our computer, guys.
You know, my computer is set up differently, so it's,
Keeps our Zoom in a different spot.
yeah, I'm a weirdo.
All righty. We're all set. Oops. Slideshow. Oh, they already have it. Yeah.
It's Mammo's.
Okay. We can see that several of you are in this. So we're glad you're in this with us today. We will have later some standards and things for you to take a look at. So if you're not in it now, you'll definitely probably want to have somebody at your table log in so you can see it a little easier than just up on the big screen.
Absolutely. You know, I like to have it in both formats. Sometimes I like to look at the screen. Sometimes I like to look.
Hey, we have it like every format. We have it printed. We have every format available in our mind. All right. So we're going to follow 3 routines for this workshop. Okay. It is going to be quick burst of hands-on explorations. We're going to do a ton today. We will read or sing together. Then we're going to play and explore together really multiple times per book. And then we will think and talk together as educators and reflect on each of the experiences that we've had and what we want our children we want them to learn and grow through these things. Okay. So we're going to follow those same 3 routines all 3 hours this morning. Okay. We're going to jump right in with our hello song. This is a song. Is this our 4th time together this year? Yeah. This is our 4th time together this year. We always started with this song. So we're going to start with,
we love a routine.
We do love a routine. So we may even end with this song. Okay. So like at the end of the day, we'll change it to Goodbye Friends. Okay. So if you don't remember the songs, you can practice them with me right now. Or if this is your first time with us, we're going to say hello and you're going to put your hand up at your eyebrow and pull it out and say hello, hello. Then you're going to take 1 pointer finger, 2 pointer fingers, crook them and intercross them like this. And you're going to say friends. So repeat that with me, friends. Okay. And then time. And then say. And then hello. Okay. If those are the signs, we'll just repeat over and over. So we're going to sing it the first time. Then we'll sing it the second time. Well, you can sing with us the first time if you already know it, but the second time we should all be able to join in. Okay, you ready? Hello, friends. Hello, friends. Hello, friends. It's time to say hello. All right, so let's do it one more time and let's sing it loud, okay? Hello, friends. Hello, friends. Hello, friends. It's time to say hello. So hello, Christian County friends. We are so glad to be back with you today. We do lose a routine. Sometimes we do lose a routine, but we do love a routine. And so we're going to follow that routine I shared earlier throughout this workshop. We do have this song embedded in that Google slide for you. So if you want to look back at it later to remember the tune to do it with your children, it's there for you. I'll let Jamie take it over.
So we're going to talk a lot about mathematics today and literacy and those connections. And 2 of the organizations that have bonded together, and it's taken many years for this to happen, the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics and NAEYC, of course, the National Association of Education for Young Children. Now, I'll say this, that when NCTM first became an organization, they didn't think about our young kids. This has taken many years for this to happen, over about a 30 to 35 year span. They've really started to appreciate the need for early childhood, for preschool experiences, and how that those attitudes toward mathematics matter. You know, we know our families sometimes get confused and say, oh, I don't like math, or I don't do well with math, but they really would say, I don't want, to do reading. It's almost like they might say, I can't draw. But we know all those things matter, and why it's so important early childhood that you look at the whole child, you look at all the domains in learning, and you get this. So this is not new to you, but it is new for some of our mathematics education friends in the last 10 years or so. So they have come out, NCTM and NAEYC have come out with a joint statement. The joint statements over the next couple of slides. It starts out with a positive attitude towards mathematics and a strong foundation for mathematical learning begin in early childhood. And we know that you are the foundation of the home. If we build a house on a weak foundation, it's an old biblical story, but we all know what that means. If you build the most beautiful house on a foundation that's crumbling, the house will not stand. Well, the same thing's true with all your concepts, but especially in mathematics. So today we're going to show you some foundational pieces around certain domains or strands of mathematics. And of course, as you know, oral language and mathematical literacy, all that comes through. When you look at this slide, it talks about what it means to be numerate, to be a problem solver, to be able to function as a citizen in our communities. Mathematics and numeracy are equal to literacy. It's not one or the other. And sometimes people get that confused too. They kind of shove math off to the side and they don't give very many minutes to mathematics. So what we're going to advocate for is like we always do. It's a blended, it's not like we're separating, we don't separate literacy from mathematics. There are times that we're looking at a specific skill, just like sometimes in numeracy, you're looking for a specific, literacy, you're looking for a specific skill with phonemic awareness or something. We do zero in at times, we come back out, tie it all together. I want to say one more thing about this. When years ago, I was working with Western and we were pulling apart their praxis data for people that were having problems passing the mathematics praxis section. They found that 50% of the reason why people couldn't do the praxis in mathematics was a literacy thing. So they're all tied together. It's all connected. I know you know that, but at least we've got our two professional organizations coming out with a joint statement. And that what that does is give legitimacy to all of us in early childhood, to those teachers from upper grades, and to families and the communities and business too.
Yeah. So that is so important. So on that same note, you're going to notice today, just a quick thing about materials before we get into it. Many of the books, or a couple of the books that we use today, are the very same books that you used in our Heggerty training that we had in November. Is that right?
That's
November.
right.
Okay. It was November. So November 1st. So it's been a few months now. Gosh, a lot's happened, right? We've had 2 tornadoes, snows, holidays. There's been a lot happened since November. So
and another variant came through.
Yeah. So I feel like we've lived 3 years since November.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that you hopefully have used those books with your kids and you have used Heggerty. We're going to reflect on Heggerty I'll talk more about that at the very end. So kind of have that in your mind also. But because of all the things she just said, it was very much intentional that we designed this workshop to use some of those same books, because we want you to see that the best books for literacy, or good books for literacy, can often be used to spur mathematical discussions. Now, as far as your lit kits, you had quite a large one today. You should have, and I think that you got these, they handed them out today. You will use all of these materials during our training. You should have a yellow bag and a green bag with materials, in addition to the 2 books, Barnyard Dance and All the World, that we use from our Heggerty training. So while we listen to this first Herman the Word, I just made that up, Herman the Worm song, I thought that might be a good time for you to get your materials out. The very first material that you'll use in our next activity is the worms. So you can find your worm and take the plastic off of them. But do enjoy this little song. You're welcome to sing along with it if you like. Music for a child's heart, body, and mind.
Healthy music for a child's heart, body, and mind. Herman the Worm from Action Fun Dance by the Learning Station. I was sitting on a fence post, slapping on my left knee, chewing on my bubble gum, chomp, 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 playing with my yo-yo, do up, do up, do up, do up, and watching the birds fly by. And then along came Herman the Worm, and he was this big. I asked Herman what happened, and he said, I swallowed one grape. I was sitting on a fence post, slapping on my left knee, chewing on my bubble gum, chomp, 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 playing with my yo-yo, do up, do up, do up, do up, and watching the birds fly by. And then along came Herman the Worm, and he was this big. I asked Herman what happened, and he said, I swallowed 2 apples. I was sitting on a fence post, slapping on my left knee, chewing on my bubble gum, chomp, 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 playing with my yo-yo, do up, do up, do up, do up, and watching the birds fly by. And then along came Herman the Worm, and he was this big. I asked Herman what happened, and he said, I swallowed 3 grapefruits. I was sitting on a fence post, slapping on my left knee, chewing on my bubble gum, chomp, 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 playing with my yo-yo, do up, do up, do up, do up, and watching the birds fly by. And then along came Herman the Worm, and he was this big. I asked Herman what happened, and he said, I swallowed 4 cantaloupes. I was sitting on a fence post, slapping on my left knee, chewing on my bubble gum, chomp, 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 playing with my yo-yo, do up, do up, do up, do up, and watching the birds fly by. And then along came Herman the Worm, and he was this big. I asked Herman what happened, and he said, I swallowed 5 watermelons. I was sitting on a fence post, slapping on my left knee, chewing on my bubble gum, chomp, 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 playing with my yo-yo, do up, do up, do up, do up, and watching the birds fly by. And then along came Herman the Worm, and he was this big. I asked Herman what happened, and he said, I burped.
I'm glad that was the answer, because I'm telling you, it could have been something else.
Yeah.
You could get Herman the Worm from Action Fun Dance.
Okay. So Herman the Worm is a really fun song, and it's not the one that I originally used with this activity. Originally, I used the Leo Leone book, and I always mess up the title.
Inch by inch.
Inch by inch. I always want to call it Inchy Inchworm. So if you have that book would also work as an anchor. I love this book though, because it starts with a counting pattern, which is really leads children to algebraic thinking. And it's perfect for retelling. So we could start off with what do you notice? What happened, just talking about this song before we get into this, what happened to Herman the Worm as the song went by? I saw some of you doing it with your hands. What happened to Herman the Worm? I know someone talked. I heard it just a little bit, but I couldn't make out what it was. Is there anybody closer to the microphone that can repeat what people say?
They said that he grew.
Oh, he did grow, right?
Yes. Is
He
that
did grow.
Caitlin? Is that Caitlin?
That's me.
Oh,
Oh,
Caitlin.
Caitlin, did you swallow watermelon?
I just saw your sweet baby.
Stella is growing.
Oh my goodness. Okay. That was exciting. We have not seen you other than just your face. We haven't seen your body. Oh,
I know, that's precious.
precious.
What a great reminder of why we're all
Yes,
here.
That's right. Okay. So they grew and grew and grew. And so I love that because kids can do it with their hands, just like you were doing it with your hands. And it fits so nicely with this manipulative. If I were doing this with littles, after we just enjoyed that as a song, right? Like at first we'd just enjoy it with the song. We'd fly like a bird. I saw some of you flying like a bird, and I saw some of you doing your yo-yo, and that was perfect. We'd just enjoy the song as really just a literacy experience.
And the meter of that is so nice
The-
with
yes.
mathematics and music.
It is keeping a steady beat. It'd be great with rhythm sticks. Or anything like that. Scarves, if you didn't want that, if you had a child that had sensory disorder, like processing, and that was going to be, or that was going to be too much for rhythm sticks, you could flick a scarf to the beat. But that's a perfect song for that. And then what I would do when I was ready to enjoy the book a second time, I would retell it in some way. Now I usually go big. So if I were doing this with, are you laughing at that?
No.
Usually go big. I thought she was
No, I'm
going to
just-
make some comments
Oh,
about
no,
that. No?
no.
Okay. So I would probably either have the actual fruit in there that he ate. So he helped me remember the things he ate. He ate 1, call it out loud. Great. Good. He ate 2. Did you say it? Apples. Okay. He ate 3 oranges. He ate 4 cantaloupe, and he ate 5 watermelon. Now, do you think you might have some children in your class that have never tried some of these fruits before? You might, right? So I would encourage you to bring those in, cut them open. It would be really cool as a part of a trees unit or a plants unit, and or nutrition, and show them the actual fruit, just like how Hungry Caterpillar is perfect for that type of science investigation. That this would be a perfect song to spur that on to. If I didn't have the actual fruit, then I would bring in fake fruit, like a 3-dimensional toy fruit of each object, or I would just print them out on large cardboard, and I would make a 5-frame large enough for the kids to stand on, and I would invite children to come up and help me tell the story of what he ate. So we would start off with if you have your worms, you're welcome to get those out. If not, we'll use them in just a minute, but okay. I would start off with the tiny worm, and we would have to get out of this mode in order to move this fruit. But I would start off not on a computer screen with real objects. And we would tell the story using the 5-frame. So we would bring our little Herman the worm. He would come over here and we would retell the story. We would say, he ate, say it with me, he ate 1 grape. Okay, you say it. He ate 1 grape. Okay. And then I would invite a child or 2 children to come up and say, okay, tell me what he ate next. And so we would do the 5-frame again. Herman ate 2 apples. 1, 2. So then I would invite you to repeat that with me. Would you like to repeat it? Herman ate 2 apples.
1, 2.
Okay. We'll do it one more time. I think you're getting the pattern here, what I would do. Okay.
Our children love retelling.
They do love retelling. And then I would say, okay, who can help me remember what did Herman eat next? So we could go back and play that part of the song again, or we could sing it. I would invite 3. I would not invite Wikipedia to pop up. Don't need that. Okay. He ate 3 oranges. So I would say Herman ate 3 oranges. The other thing you could bring in there is you could bring in, and how big was Herman after he ate 3 oranges? Well, Herman was, and you could stretch him out even. Herman was this big after he ate 3 oranges, okay? And then, so I would do that with physical manipulatives, and I'll tell you why in just a minute. Now, if I wanted the worm and I wanted him to start small and then get larger and retell it, do you know what works perfect to do that? Is a slinky. Have a slinky be your worm, and he's going to be really small, so he's going to take up 1 5-frame with those kids, and then you can stretch him to show how he grows and grows and grows until he burps, and then he gets small again. Okay, so that is how I would retell that. I have retold Hungry Caterpillar numerous times in a very similar way. And kids love it so much. On those, I usually just use poster board and make big cutout fruits and vegetables and all the stuff that he ate. But this could be retold a very similar way. Then you can put this in your math center as an activity that they can do, or you can put it in your reading center. And it almost becomes like puppets for them to act out that song, because we know that songs, any type of media, a video, a song, any type of media that they're enjoying is text, and they're conveying meaning from that. Okay, so we wanted to start out with a song instead of just a book, so you see how you can use other media as well. Is there anything you want to add to that before I go to the next slide?
No, I'm just thinking about how many different stories they could tell.
Oh yeah, they could write their own stories with their
Yes.
own, connecting back to what we talked about with oral language. I'm sure you all remember when we did going on a bear hunt, and we had them carry that bear around, and we said they could tell all their stories. They may not want to go on a bear hunt. They may want to go on a Mickey Mouse hunt or whatever interests them. They could retell this story. It could be Jamie the Worm.
That's right. And if I don't have fruit at my house, I might have something like I might have a biscuit, or you might.
I like a biscuit.
I do. I don't know if you can tell by looking, but we're kind of a white flour family. We're trying to cut that off, that addiction a little bit. But
Yeah.
anyway,
And sugar.
Yes, we are. Not that we're saying that's what you should be,
Right.
but we do. All children would have something at home that they would regularly eat that they might want to join in and tell the
That's
story.
right.
You would learn a lot about.
You know what?
their
That
culture.
would be perfect. I hadn't thought about that ahead of time, but I know there are things in your curriculum and in ECRs and things that really talk about bringing in food from different cultures.
Mhm.
How perfect would that be to look at the little microcultures that you have within your classroom? And if you did this with families and have them share like 5 foods that they love to eat together, and then do Herman the Worm with their
Mhm.
families.
I thought about that because I was thinking just about different cultures, because I worked with a lady that she said she lived, of course, in our community, but her family never had biscuits. They always had white flour tortillas to eat for
I love
breakfast.
it.
And she said, whenever all the examples were used, and she never saw her family in it. So giving that a child
is
the
so important.
opportunity to
Yeah.
show what their family eats, then that really do that.
Mm-hmm. That's a really good point. That's a really good point. You could even bring in local farms and things and have foods even that you just grow that you can sustain locally. You
That's
could do all
right.
kinds of
all
cool
kinds
things
of
with it.
neat things.
I
like
hadn't
that.
even thought of that. See, that's why we should talk about ideas, because they just get better. Now, the more you talk to people, because you're going to bring in different points of view. So, you know what? Let's just pause for a second before I do this and tell me, what foods would you like to see on there if you were to retell this with your class? And somebody will have to tell us closer to the laptop, because I would love to hear it too. But what foods do you think your children would bring in, or would you like to see included in the Herman the Worm song? You can talk, why don't you take about 15, 20 seconds and talk about it at your table and then share it out.
Pizza.
Oh, pizza.
Ah.
That's a good one.
Yeah, pizza, and have different toppings on your pizza. Even you could have slices come in. That could be really cool, because it come together and make a different way to make a whole, like part whole.
That's what I'm thinking. You could take the worm and stretch it around the crust. Like it starts off small and then it gets bigger, bigger, bigger.
Yeah, that could be so cool.
Yeah.
I'm thinking a string cheese could. I've got a food thing going
Yep,
on. I
she's
must be
hungry.
hungry.
All right. What else?
You could do an unhealthy and healthy comparison too, and talk about like if Herman the Worm got bigger from eating unhealthier. than
That
healthy.
is true.
Yeah.
And that's a part of your standards, really, too. Looking at making choices for your body, making a healthy choice and a not healthy choice. Or what could he do other than burp, right? Like he could go for a swim.
Yeah, I'm glad you went there with that.
Oh,
I've spent a lot of time with boys in my life, and I'm afraid that question would
I would
be
take
really.
it. I would take it because
Yeah.
they'd be correct. I love it. Any other foods?
Candy.
Candy.
yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Ooh, I could see Hershey Kisses lined up there.
Yeah, and I love that. I love because it shows, and it is coming in an absolute flood here. I mean, it is coming down in sheets of rain. We got trees about to blow over here. So I just got a notification our internet connection was unstable. So just bear with us for a minute if it seems a little rough. I think it will pass
Because it's
quickly.
literally rough.
Yeah. So I think that's
Y'all
really
haven't
cool.
cut out yet. Y'all have not cut out yet, but it's coming down here too. So
Okay. All right. See, it's a small world, isn't it? It's a small world. You have our phone numbers. If for some reason it cuts out and we don't know it, don't hesitate to text us, okay? And I will give any of you our phone numbers. It's 270-779-5969. You call or text me anytime, okay? I used to give it out at trainings and say, call me after, especially if I'm doing them on my books. If anybody wants it, I'll be happy to share it with you, okay? But so let us know if something happens and it's unstable and we can't see it from our end, okay? But I love that because we all do love candy. A lot of us love pizza. We might not love fruit. We all love things that are healthy, and we all probably love a lot of things that are unhealthy. So what's really cool about that is it's going to show community also through that conversation, not just how we're different, but also how we are alike. Something unique that our family eats is that tomato gravy thing.
Yes.
I can see that would be something that would be unique on there. So I think that'd be a cool way for families to share about themselves. Now, I want to bring this up because we are virtual. So what I just did, where I put it in a Google slide and I drug it over on a Google slide, let me just say, if I were doing this with young learners, that is not ever the way that I would do it with young learners. That's the way I'm doing it with you because we are virtual, okay? If I were doing this with young learners, I would do exactly what I said the first time. I would actually bring in the real fruit. I would bring in pretend objects of the real fruit, or I would bring in blown up pictures of the real fruit. And just as a reminder, I think we've shared this with you once before, but concrete to abstract is going to be how the visual models, we're going to start with concrete for a greater support, and abstract is going to offer little to no support, okay? The concrete is going to be real objects, toys, or figures of those objects, like 3 dimensions, okay? If it's not real, it's 3 dimensions. Anytime you move to 2 dimensions, even if it's really big and on poster board, you're still moving to that center level because it's less real. So that's a really broad level. That can be real life pictures if they need more support, or it can be black line masters and cartoons to have a little less scaffolded support. No support would be visual memory. What I showed you all today, doing that on the PowerPoint, you've all had experience with all of those fruits and you can all count to 5. So it was appropriate to you. It was appropriate for you. It would not be appropriate for our youngest learner. So I just wanted to bring that out. And it's something we talked about. And it's another way that literacy and math are connected. That is true when we are working on things with phonological awareness and we're using manipulatives and multisensory approach for that. It's also true for math. Okay, this same graphic works for reading, and it works for our phonological awareness. If you're doing an alphabet principle, whatever skill you're doing in reading where you need those 3D models, the same is true for math. So you've got those worms out. The first thing I want you to do, and you can do this with partners at your table, you can do it as a group of 4 at your table, however many people you have sitting there, or if you're someone who wants to explore independently, that's totally fine too. You decide what works best for you. The first thing I want you to do is to dig out your worms. You may have to dump them all out on the table, but there are 4 different sizes. There are 4 different lengths of worms. And I want you to find those 4 different lengths of worms. And you can see, I'll put my screen down here. It's maybe not the best, but I've just laid mine out on my piece of paper so that I can see my 4 different sizes. Now, I love these little measure worms. Kids love them. I have used them with all different ages of kids, even older kids enjoy them. But there's one thing I don't like about them, but it's a pro and a con. I can see where it's beneficial, but for this purpose today, I kind of wish all the little ones were the same color and all the mediums were the same color. Of course, you can do more sorting and things if they're different colors. So there's a purpose for each one, but don't think that just because my little one is green, that all the little ones are green, because that would be an incorrect assimilation. All right. So hopefully you have had time to find your measure worms of all different lengths. I want you to line them up from shortest to longest, just like Herman the Worm. So he just had 1 grape, when he had 2 apples, when he had the 4 watermelon, when he had the 4 cantaloupe, when he had the 5 watermelon. Okay, line them up longest to shortest. And when you've done that, you are ready for our game. Our first game is going to be a scavenger hunt, okay? So you're in a library. Now, here are the rules. You may look in your purse. You may look in your pockets. You may look around the library. You may look anywhere that you can see and get to relatively quickly, okay? Like if you know you have something in your classroom and it's just what you really, really want and you're in your own building, you're welcome to grab it. But you can look anywhere, anything, okay? The first worm that I want you to pull out and use is your longest worm. So everybody hold up their longest worm. Holy moly, I have stuff blowing away out there, y'all. I got a watering can flying through the flying through the yard. Okay,
It's the Wizard of Oz. here.
I've got good neighbors. They won't mind. I'll pick it up later. So here, get your longest worm, and here's what I want you to do. I'm going to set my timer for how long. Should we give them to go look?
Let's do 2 minutes, you think?
2 minutes. You're giving them a long time. I was
Oh.
thinking 20
They're
seconds.
about to get up out of their chair.
I was
move
making it
around a
like
little bit.
supermarket sweet.
Oh, I think
Okay,
two.
let's
They
do-
want to go.
Let's do
look
1
at-
minute.
1 minute. Okay.
All right, we're gonna do 1 minute.
1
And
minute,
then
set the
come back.
timer.
I want you to find something longer than your worm. And when you have found it, kind of hold it up to us and sit back down so we know you're ready. That'll be our visual cue. We're gonna start right now. 60 seconds, something longer than your longest worm. Some of them already got it. See, I told you. Look at them, already
They're
got
so
it.
fast.
All right, if you
1
want,
minute.
all right, go. They've already got it.
1 minute. All right, I'm gonna find something.
I'm gonna find something. Let's see. Done. See,
No fair. I've had to get one out of the thing.
oh, I'm so sorry.
It's not.
That's a long one. Yeah. About 30 seconds. Run. She's running. Measuring. Found something on the table. All right. 20 seconds. Everybody move back to your seats if you're not there already. Oh, is
Valentine.
that longer?
Oh,
Oh, you have failed this city. There you go. Okay. 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Be seated. All right. Okay, I would love for you to share at your table what you found that was longer than your longest worm. All right, let's have 2 people come up and share with us so we can celebrate with you. 2 friends.
Got a pencil.
A pencil. It is longer. One more friend. Here she comes.
Fruit roll up.
Oh, a fruit. Delicious. Herman the worm approves.
Then I did a color pencil.
Oh, a color. And
Oh.
those look like similar colors on my screen. It might not be in person, but I like it. I like it. I found a house.
and I found a card that a gift from Valentine's came with.
Yeah. Okay. All right. You ready for the next one? This time I want you to choose one of your middle worms. You have 2 middle-sized worms. You can pick whichever middle-sized worm that speaks to your heart. I'm going to choose my shorter one. Mine is blue. I'm going to choose the shorter middle-sized one. You may choose the larger middle-sized one. And I want you to go on a hunt and see if you can find something smaller than your middle-sized worm. Okay?
1 minute.
She's already set the timer and
1 minute.
running before she told anyone. So
Yes.
you can go. You got
I'm
about
cheating.
50 seconds. Something
Cheating.
smaller. Here, you want to use the bigger middle-sized one? Let's use the bigger middle-sized one. I said smaller, right?
Yeah, I'm
Oh,
cheating.
got a lightning alert. Find something shorter. I said smaller. Let's find something shorter. Okay.
Some candy.
Oh.
Found some candy.
Found the safety plug. Come on, 10 seconds. All right, we'll do the same thing. I'd invite a few people to come up and share it at your table first. And then a few people come up while someone's walking up, I'll share. I found one of the safety covers for a light switch, and it is shorter than my middle worm.
And I found a candy and it's much shorter. In fact, I wish my candy were as long as my worm.
All right, what did you find?
Snickers. The Snickers.
Oh, it is shorter. Good. What else did we find? See another friend.
Little hook thing.
Oh, one of those grappling hooks.
Yes.
Yes, like a Batman.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Any more friends want to share? Okay. I love it. Shorter than your shortest. Okay. I'm going to ask a tricky one. Did somebody else come up and I cut you off, or were you just coming back from the bathroom? All right.
Walking by.
Oh, okay. I won't call her out. I won't make her come back up and do that. I once had a presenter that wouldn't let me go to the bathroom. She made me sit back down until I was allotted time to go to the bathroom. It was rough.
Which could have been disastrous.
It was almost a disaster because if I say I have to go, I usually really have to go. So now I want you to look at your teeny tiny shortest worm after he burped or before he ate. The hangry Herman when he's hungry. Okay, this one's going to be tricky, and we will definitely probably need the full minute for this one. I want you to find something that is about twice as long as your shortest worm. Twice. So that means if you lay it on there, it's going to be about 2 of your shortest worms. Okay, it doesn't have to be exact, but it's going to be pretty close to 2 of the shortest worms. So you could even go with a buddy on this one and each lay your worm down on it to measure if you wanted to. But let's give a full minute starting now. We can go together if you want to. Oh, got it. Found something.
Found something. Look here.
All right, you have about 20 seconds left. Let me see. Oh, you did find it. It's mine. I don't even know what this is.
Some battles. Something.
Yeah. Star Wars something, I think. Okay. I'll share. We got 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. It's time. I found this top of a Star Wars toy that if I put 2 worms on it, it's about the diameter of it.
And I found this house, the roof, if I put across the length of the roof is about 2. Sorry.
So she found the roof if there's about 2. All right, what did you find that was about 2 of your smallest worms?
An eraser.
Oh, an eraser. That's a good one. All right, one more person. What did you find that was 2 of your smallest worms?
Anyone else found anything?
Oh, look at that.
It's a little mini dinosaur.
It's a little
Oh.
dinosaur.
We are the love of trinkets.
I
aren't we?
love it. That's perfect. Perfect. He's a Tuosaurus.
It's a Tuosaurus.
And it's perfect for today because it's the 22nd of the 22nd.
It is.
Okay. So
In the second month.
in the second month. So this is a really fun game. It's a fun one to do if you happen. Hopefully we won't be going back to virtual instruction, but if you are doing any kind of virtual instruction, it's a fun one to go send kids on scavenger hunts for things they can find in their home. It's also a fun one to do like in a transition. If you have just like you've cleaned up from centers and you have a couple of minutes until lunch, you can show a worm and children can go find things that are different sizes. Again, it would also work in a math center. If you had taught that in small group first and they understood what to do with it, it would work in so many different types of environments. We'll have time to reflect on each of these activities at the end of when we show all the things to do with the manipulative. So keep those ideas in mind because we will share. The next idea for this manipulative and to go with that song is how many worms are you? So you're going to pull out the longest worm from your container. Again, for me, that was my yellow one. And you're going to choose one team member, okay, from your table or a couple of tables together, however you want to do it, to lie down on the ground. And they're going to get measured by this worm. You're going to measure how many of the longest worms are you. We're going to get,
Please take pictures.
please take pictures.
Please send us pictures now. If somebody that you give your phone number again.
I've been texting you a few. Make sure.
Oh, good.
Wonderful.
You know what?
Let me check.
Yay!
Oh, I'm so happy.
We had our phones on silent. Look at you work. Look at this. Look at you working.
Oh, look at them even talking
Oh
to
my
us.
gosh, look at this. We
We're
see
so
you.
excited.
Okay. So you don't know how that makes our day. So get your longest worm out. Choose a brave, brave soul that's going to lay on the floor and be willing to be measured by our little Herman the Worms. And one of us will do it too. One of us will lay on the floor and one of us will measure. I promise. We're not going to ask you to do anything we won't do. And we want to know how many worms you are. If you have extra time, you can measure multiple people. Okay. All right. So how long do we think we need for this? 2, 3 minutes?
Maybe 3.
Let's do 3 minutes. We're
We
gonna
don't
set-
want anybody to have to jump down real too
yeah,
fast.
we're gonna set a timer for 3 minutes, and when we come back, we'd love to hear from every table group. How many worms long was your person? Okay, setting the timer now. She's enjoying your pictures.
I am, sorry.
All right, 3 minutes starting now.
Starting.
Go. All right, who's gonna lay down?
I'll lay down.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
I need to
Stretch.
stretch my body out. I'm still like this is crazy.
What are you doing,
I've been screaming and screaming. Now they're lying down on the floor during a storm.
Are we going to the
She just spit on me.
You're 15 and a half. Here, and you're 15 and a half. You're good. All right. You're 15. You are 15 and a half worms. Let me see how that works out mathematically with how tall you really are. I'm curious.
Because that is 4 inches.
Yeah. I think it works pretty good. I'm showing on my timer, we have about a minute left. So Jamie and I are finished, but you still have a minute left to measure if you need it. Ooh, that thunder was loud. Okay, about 20 seconds. So go ahead and wrap up. Let me put this over here. Is that okay? Oh, we've got,
We'll do it this way then. Just not getting in your business when you were,
got
had
it.
your hand over there,
You're
you were doing
fine.
this stuff.
Oh, I think I see pictures. Is that pictures coming in?
Oh, yes.
Oh, they measured their body parts. I love it. You know what she said? Okay, timer's going off. You know what she said when I got down there to measure her? She said, I'm just glad you're not trying to do my circumference. Okay.
Oh, wonderful.
Oh my gosh. I love seeing these pictures of you measuring. I love that you measured your body. Look at those smiling faces. Okay. So she was 15 and a little over a half worms. And I will tell you the real measurements of these worms in a minute. I just checked hers and it was right on.
Really?
Yeah, it was like, that would put you like 5'3" or so, which
It should be 5'5", but I've shrunk probably.
it's close.
Yeah. And worm is probably hard to measure by. It's a
Yeah.
lot of error there.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Potential error, I should say.
Are
that
you
many.
are you talking to us, Caitlin? Did you say something?
No, we were, sorry.
Oh, good. No, I just wanted to hear what you were going to say.
We're just listening.
Oh, you were listening. Okay. It was my speakers then. It sounded like that you were asking something and we were cutting you off. Okay. So, how many worms were you all? How did that work out? Or and I know you measured your body parts. What did you find? Tell us what you learned as you measured yourself with the worms. I'd like to hear from each person that was measured or measured someone.
Yes, we had one friend that was 16 worms long, and then we measured our feet and arms and just kind of thought of other ways that we could use these worms to measure us without all of us old ladies getting on the floor.
Well, and it's different because I got on a rug and it's different than getting on the library floor. I agree with that.
It is different.
Yeah.
It is different. Another fun way to do this too is you could have them outline their bodies, like on
Yes.
bulletin board paper, and that way you could measure. They wouldn't, if you wanted to put it in the center, then you could have it signed like, oh, this is Miss Allison's body. You can pick the worm and you can measure Miss Allison's body or your own body.
You could also do some graphing and do how many worms tall were you, and have friends, place themselves on the graph at how many worms tall they were and see who was the tallest, shortest, those kind of things.
Absolutely.
Yes, that'd be incredible.
This is really just a getting you started, right? Because the beautiful thing about math and about science is the more you explore, the more wonderings you have. Okay. So now that I have found out that she was, what did I say? 15 and a half worms.
Mhm.
Guess what my wondering is? I wonder how many worms I am.
Right.
Okay. So at your table right now, I want you to share a wondering that you have.
Share a wondering that you have. Her wondering was if her mom is 16 worms tall and she's shorter, then how many worms would she be? So what's something that you wonder about after doing this activity? Or what's something you think the children would wonder about while doing this? Yeah. They're saying that they think that their children would want to know how many worms tall their pets and family members would be.
I think that's, yes. And a matter of fact, our dog went over and stood on mom, on her hair, actually, while I was measuring her on the ground. And my first wondering was, I wonder how many worms Stella is. So I think about the dogs and the cats and whatever. I think they would definitely wonder that.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think how you adapted it to be body parts instead of the length of the person is great too, because there might even be some children who that's a better adaptation for.
That's right. Something that Caitlin made me think about when she said making a graph, and that is that, when we're making a graph, we sometimes use like the Post-it notes little size. One of these worms is 3 inches, which is there's a 3x3 Post-it note.
Mm-hmm.
So that just happens to be, and that one is the red one on the screen.
It's the second longest worm.
Right. It's not always red, but
Mhm.
yes, the second longest worm is, and so you could then transfer that, use the worm first, and then use the Post-it note
Mhm.
which is that representation.
Yeah, do you understand what she's saying? Like measure first with the worm and then use the Post-it notes as you're graphing because it would be the same size. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because, you know, that's really, I know you know this. I know I'm not telling you something that you don't already know, but you know, when we move from the real object to the representation on a graph, it loses a lot of meaning for a lot of our folks. And so that would be if it's exactly the same length, it might be more helpful for
Yes.
them to do that.
I think that's a great idea. So just so you know, for your own reference, this information I think is in the Measure Worms paper too, but I've just put it in the Google slide for you. Your longest worm is 4 inches. Your medium-sized worm, as she just said, is 3 inches. The almost shortest, the next to shortest is going to be 2 inches. And that smallest worm is 1 inch. So
Just listen to all your language you're using when you're describing.
yeah. So although these are non-standard units of measurement, you do know the standard unit of measurement. And if they're using that inch, then they are using US customary, the standard unit of measurement. They are using that. And I think you can get Post-its in 1 inch also, the little tiny square ones. You know, if you wanted to see an inch by inch. That connects to children going to the doctor's office too, because they always measure their height and their circumference of their head when they're little. Those are 2 things they usually do measure. So it would even have implications and a place in a dramatic play center. Although it sounds really silly, if you had a dramatic play center, that it would certainly be appropriate if you had it like a farm theme or an animal theme or a vet theme or even a doctor theme. You could put some measurement things in there also. Okay. So that is what we have for our first song and our first, seeing where we are on time. We really enjoyed that with you all. So that's our first song and our first set of activities with our first material. Okay. And Jamie, you're going to introduce this next.
Sure. So this is a time when you may want to use the Google slide deck on your table so you see it better, because the first question is going to ask you about where's the mathematics in these activities, and it's going to show your early childhood standards. And then the next couple of slides are going to show you the Erikson progressions. And I'm just going to show those to you because I want you at your table to flip back and forth for those. So this is what the standards look like. And I know you know that well. And you also know we're getting some new standards, which are going to be more helpful. But these are the Erikson progressions. And just like the word progression implies, it is a continuum. And it really it gives us an important point or big idea, but it thinks about it from the classroom perspective and from a teacher perspective too. There's 2 slides there I'd like for you to look at for Erikson. So I would like for you to, at your table, look at the mathematical standards and then also look at the 2 Erikson slides. And we're going to give you a couple of minutes to look at these and talk at your table. Where do you think about measurement, easily someone can say, yeah, that's math. But when you look at the particulars, go down deep dive into measurement. What's it really all about?
Yeah, so some of this you've already kind of talked about because you had time to talk at your tables as you did these activities. You talked about how else you might use them. You might graph with them. We want you to extend that conversation, but also want you to take a look at where does it fit in with the standards and with the Erikson progressions.
You're going to see really specific language on that Erikson. Okay.
So we're going to give you just a couple of minutes to You won't finish the conversation, but you'll get it started. We will follow the same pattern with every set of activities. So we're going to set a timer for 2 minutes and let you flip through those documents and talk about that.
Or do y'all have a computer back there that when y'all put the fingers on? Yeah, I shared the slides with every classroom teacher. Y'all are more than welcome to share them with your aides too. Hey, Allison,
Yes.
do you want us to analyze the benchmarks as well?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Go ahead and we put the benchmarks on there just because sometimes those standards are pretty broad, and the benchmarks help give you a little more specificity of what they're talking about. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
We just thought that would help you guide your conversation, because basically where this conversation is leading is a lot of times when we do these things, I'll come down here so you can see me and not just my stomach when I'm talking. But a lot of times when we do these things and people walk in the classroom, they think it just looks like play. And that's exactly what we know it should look like. But we just want to show you that they are actually very intentional activities with deeper rooted foundations. So that's why we want to bring in these standards and big ideas discussions.
Okay, we're just going to leave that screen onto just us for a moment, so we can talk about you at your table. You have those slides you can pull up. So when you looked at the benchmarks specifically on the standards, what did you notice about the measurement? Someone want to come up and tell us about what you noticed about the benchmarks?
Yeah, they can't hear.
Really, it's just within the book of what we just done. It's kind of easy that we can do with the worms, counting the worms, and then, you can even use the worms to create different shapes and relations like that. And then comparison, pattern with the colors and pattern with the sizes. I mean, it's just easy. It's just a building stone, kind of ordeal. And then we literally did the non-standard, way to measure.
So you found a way you could use this manipulative for all those benchmarks.
Excellent job.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
What about the big ideas with Erickson and some of those teaching points with Erickson on those couple of slides? What did you notice there? How did you connect?
How did y'all see those?
The language and the literacy, focusing on what language to use in measuring, gave us a great idea or examples of what to say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the language, the oral language, the language you're building with the literacy comparison language. Allison and you were all using the longer, shorter, all those comparison terms.
Something that Erickson says we did not use that I think you could use measure worms too are thicker and thinner. There's all sorts of words. I think you're right. Erickson, one great thing about that is the language it brings out.
Mhm.
We've talked about this before if you've been in ECLA, Early Childhood Literacy Academy before with us. But so often, what's the sign for more? Everybody show me. If a kid wants more, what's the sign? Okay. What's the sign for less?
Who wants less?
Right. I have to look it up every single time because children don't ask for less, and we don't ask them if they want less of something. Okay. We don't ask them if they want fewer of something. So often that translates into math. We'll ask them something longer, or we'll ask them if they want more. We'll ask them things that lead to adding, We don't ask for things that lead to subtracting or fewer. And guess what kids have a harder time with later? Adding or subtracting, multiplying or dividing, right? So it can start with our foundation. And when you ask them if they want more, ask them, would you like fewer or would you like less of something as well? So anytime you're doing longer, make sure you do shorter. Anytime you're doing thicker, make sure you do thinner. That's what I try to keep in my mind. I have to say, when I started, even with my own boys, I was not very good at that. I always just did more. I always just did whatever the more, the most, the longest, the heaviest of something was. And I had to intentionally say, okay, you just asked them about the longer. You have to remember to ask them about shorter now. You have to remember to ask them about less now, or fewer. Okay. And the rule between that word fewer and less, I've learned this even in the last few years. If you can count it, it's fewer. And if you can't count it, then it's less. So anyway, I was in a meeting once and had someone talk to me about that. So that's how those words, but we all know more. And yeah, I just think that that's a really interesting comparison when you're doing measurement. Just remember, if you're doing longer, to also do shorter. If you're doing more, also do less or fewer. Okay.
You know, there's another word that's on the Erikson slides that I want to be sure that we connect to. And that is the word your kids talk about a lot. It's a 4-letter word, ends with air. I didn't want to say start with an F. Ends with air. It is fair, right?
I couldn't figure out what word you were going with. It was taking me a while. Multiple clues were not clicking for me
Okay.
today.
Well, they have the slides in front
Oh,
of them.
got it. I do too, but I'm just not with it.
Okay. Fair. You know, our kids care so much about fair, and comparison, such an important word to fair. And, you know, fair shares, and that really takes us into fractions. And although fractions don't show up really on our benchmarks, our kids care about it. They really do care about fair shares. And so I just think that's a nice connector to the
Yeah.
notion of fairness. They love that. And with language. So, and it talks about, Erikson reminds us about, we're using non-standard, but even with non-standard, we can talk about the process and the precision of measurement, even with non-standard. And, you know, so many times in the business community, folks tell us that they have trouble hiring adults that can measure and, you know, can problem solve with measuring and things. So it is a very important skill for lifelong learning. Thank you, guys.
Okay. So our next activity, our next anchor, and I'm going to ask you to get this book out. It's Color Zoo. And what's better than us reading to you for this one is for you to read it together at your table. Okay. So as long as one person per table has this book, go ahead and get this book out and read it together. We'll get our Google Slides back up while you do that. But go ahead and read and enjoy this book together. Okay, has everyone had time to read the book now? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we're going to move right along. We want to get through this next set of activities and then we'll have a formal break. So you've probably seen this book before. It's a classic. I love Lois. Is it Ehlert?
I think so.
I love her books. She has some fantastic ones that are like collages from like Leaf Man. There are several that are wonderful for Luce Park Centers also for science and math. This is her book that's just on shapes and it's Color Zoo. And I think she has one also called Color Farm that's very similar. So tell me, what did you notice as you flipped? What do you think? What did you notice, or what do you think children would notice as they flip through these pages? Just hear from one or two people. And you can actually share it at your table if you want.
I'm hearing people say animals, colors, and shapes.
Animals, colors, and shapes.
That's a
So
lot.
we knew that when you read this book, you were instantly going to say all the different vocabulary that kids could do with that, okay? And that's right, animals, colors, and shapes. We know those are all different attributes and all different ways to sort and do all sorts of fun things. So that is correct. There are, as much as I love this book, there are a couple things, but there's one thing I want to just tell you first off is what does the author call this shape?
A diamond.
A diamond. And that is actually okay to call it a diamond as far as if you're being descriptive and using figurative language. But if we decide to use this book as a math text, which is what we're doing today, because it has some great math vocabulary in it with shapes, does anyone know what this shape should actually be called to kids? Did they say it?
They said rhombus.
You're right. Ooh, I wish I had some candy. I wish I had some candy to throw through the screen to you, okay? Or some pizza, all those favorite things we said earlier. You're right, it's a rhombus. And I tell kids, you know what? Even Mickey Mouse gets it wrong, because when Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, he calls that a diamond. And we just use that as a teachable moment, an opportunity to say, you know what, if it's descriptive language and you're writing and you're describing something, it's okay to call things diamonds. Sometimes you can say it looks like a diamond, and then we're in similes, okay? Or if you say it is a diamond, then we're doing a metaphor, okay? But if we are talking about this as its actual name, it is a rhombus or it is a quadrilateral, okay? So we're gonna, if I were using this, I might even just take a pen and put like a piece of tape, like painter's tape on top of it and write rhombus there so kids could see both of those words, okay?
And I think our kindergarten math standards even have where they identify 2D shapes, and rhombus is specifically listed on the kindergarten math standard for identifying 2D shapes. So it is kind of best practice to go ahead and get them in the habit of calling it a rhombus, because when they go to kindergarten, they will be expected to identify it as a rhombus and not a diamond.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, I taught all the way up through 6th grade. And when I would get to 3rd grade and 4th grade and do shapes with kids, some kids would still call it a diamond. And this is where it's one of those things that it is so simple to pass along a misconception to a child. It happens with shapes quite a lot, and it does impact geometry later. And so there's another example of that we're going to talk about in a minute, but y'all were on target with it being a rhombus, and Caitlin, you were exactly right. We want to go ahead and match those standards. So I would just go ahead and call it a rhombus on there, okay? And I totally agree with you. So let's get ready for our next one. And in those green and yellow bags, you need to get out your sensory bin, and you need to open up your filler and pour it in your bin. The other material that you're going to need for this activity are your pattern blocks. So you can see that I have out my pattern blocks, and I am going to just take them, and I'm either going to put all of them or most of them in there. I'm gonna leave a few in my bucket just so if I want to look for a specific shape for an activity, I can find it. And then I'm just gonna bury them like they are hidden treasure inside that sensory bin. I can see little bits of them sticking out. I can't see all of them. There are numbers that come with your sensory bin also. You don't need those for today. Those are for you to enjoy and use later. They were out of the shape sensory bin when we did your order, so we just made you a shape sensory bin, okay? So you're gonna put those little pattern block pieces.
You only need your shape.
You do not need the numbers for these activities. You just need to put your shapes in. So I have mine hidden. You can see they look like little treasures. I've got little parts of them poking out.
Yeah, go ahead and open them and put your pattern blocks in them.
Because you are going to use them. Yes, go ahead and open them, stick your pattern blocks in there, bury them, because you are going to use them right now for this activity. Caitlin, you just let me know when they're ready for the directions for the activity, since you can see them a little
Okay.
easier.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Oh, she's right. They're getting their sensory bins ready. All right. So I think we're going to do this one. And this one. Okay.
More pictures.
Oh, I love it.
Hey, Miss Allison, I think that we're all ready.
Excellent. So what I'm going to do, if I'm working with you with small group now, I'm going to pretend like that I just have a couple of you at my table and we're at small group together. We've already read this book and enjoyed it together once, and now we're going to enjoy this book again. And I'm going to say, now this won't work with all of the shapes in here because you know pattern blocks do not have circles. So you may want to flag the shapes that will work, okay, just for yourself or if you just know them. But I'm going to say, okay, guys, so let's take a look at this mouse. And what shape do we see? And I would let kids trace it. You can trace it in your book. Let's trace the shape of the mouse on this page, the blue page. And now I want you to stick your hand in the sensory bin and see if you can find that shape. We could count the sides. It has 4 sides. And we're going to see if we can find that shape. So stick your hand in your sensory bin and see if you can find the shape that matches the mouse. I found it. And then we're going to name this shape. This shape is called a square. So I used a square to make the mouse. Okay. And then I'm going to flip to the next one and I'll let Jamie be my friend this time. Now I'm on the page with the fox. So turn your page to the page with the fox. And Jamie, I want you to run your fingers along the shape of the fox's face. Okay, do you feel it? Let's count it. Ready? 1, 2, 3. And I don't know if you noticed, but I did hand over hand with her. Okay.
3 sides.
3 sides. So I want you to fill in there. You can use your eyes or you can just use your hands and see if you can find a shape with 3 sides that match the fox's face. And guys, I want you to do this at your tables too.
Oh, I found one with 3 sides. It's smaller though.
It is smaller.
I can put it inside there.
Okay. So I want you, now we're going to trace our fingers along the top of this shape. 1, 2, 3. So we have a small one and a big one. Can we name this shape together?
It's a triangle.
It's a triangle. Okay. So that is the first activity directly related to the book. And again, you could have those pages flagged. One thing I do really like about this book is just like sandpaper letters, the kids can trace it. So we're getting some pre-writing skills in there too. And you saw one time I did hand over hand with her. So that's one activity that you can do with your sensory bin. You could even have them retell the story or make up their own story. Like I'm going to close my eyes and I'm going to pull out I'm going to pull out a hexagon. So I can either look through here now and see if I can find the shape that matches, like a scavenger hunt, or I can make up my own animal for the hexagon to add to the
I
colors.
could put it down on my paper and trace around it.
Mhm. Okay, so that's how I'm going to bring literacy in for that activity. Now, if I want to put the book away, if I don't want to put the book at the center, or we've had enough time at the center and I still want to use these shapes, or I want to play this as a partner game, then I could say, Jamie, I want to challenge you. Let's do a different shape. We've already done that one. Oh, I've got this one, the rhombus. Okay, so we could find the one it goes with if we want to. I want you to close your eyes. And I'm going to help you put your hand in the sensory bin and see if you can find a rhombus without looking.
Use two hands.
You can use two hands, yes. Is that a rhombus?
No.
How do you know it's not a rhombus?
Because it has too many sides.
Okay, so I'm going to take that and I'm going to put it in the not a rhombus box category. What is that one? Is it a rhombus?
It's not a rhombus.
How do you know it's not a rhombus?
Because of the sides they're not the same. They don't
Okay.
feel the same.
All right, let me add that to your not a rhombus.
I think this is a rhombus.
Why do you think this is a rhombus?
Because it feels like two triangles put together. And that's what I think about when I think of a rhombus.
Okay, so let you feel my shape and see if you think it feels the same.
It does.
Okay, open your eyes and look. Did you get it?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, I want you to do that at your table now. One of you challenge the other one to find a specific shape and play the game that Jamie and I just played together. You can sort it as, like, if you pull out a triangle, if they're looking for a triangle, not a triangle, and a triangle, okay, as they find the different shapes. So I'm going to give you about 1 minute to explore with that game.
Allison,
Yes.
in just a minute, I would like for us to talk too about how we can use this with our children with disabilities, because it is a sensory activity.
Absolutely.
But specifically, like like I know whenever I was in preschool, I had some friends with autism, and some of them struggled with that, with me giving them direction. They rather do things independently. And so you could take pictures of each, or scan each page of the book and put it on a mat and lay it out in front of them and let them independently match it. But what are some other ways to accommodate for those friends with this activity?
Okay. Yes, I think that would be great to talk about. So when they finish this activity, we will have that conversation. When they finish this, trying it out, that way everyone's explored with it. Sometimes after we explored with it, we'll be able to come up with even more ideas. Okay, I love that conversation.
Apparently I need this experience.
I know it's hard, isn't it?
I love to do it. I love to play in the with these great pictures.
Caitlin, I'll let you tell me when they're ready. I know I said about a minute, but you let me know just when they're ready to move on, okay?
Look at the sensory.
Great. Yeah. I love their smiles. Yeah, it's hard to keep your hands out of it, isn't it? It's like,
It is.
All right, Miss Allison, we're ready. And we have one friend in the back that was curious about her friends eating the rice.
Yes, and I think that anytime you use a sensory bin, that's something you always need to make sure whatever materials that you use are appropriate for the age of children that you work with. Now, if you have children with oral oversensitivities, and they're always going to put things in their mouth. Now, most children, once it's out all the time, it loses its excitement, right? Like most children, like it's like if you went to work at Disney World every day, at some point it's just going to feel like going to work, right? You're not going to walk in and see the castle anymore. You're going to walk in and see, oh, I have to be at the confectionery for work. Okay. So for most children, that will happen over time, but that's not true for all children. There are children who are always going to put things in your mouth well, I hope maybe in your mouth. In their mouth, okay? I have had children put things in my mouth before, so that's not always untrue. So I think that that if this is a safe material that is out for them, if you'd like to read more about what this says that it's safe for 3+ and it came from Lakeshore. So you can look on Lakeshore's website. Lakeshore, if you have a child that you think this is too small for, they also do have toddler sensory bin materials. And you can buy those. Those are larger. They're like big squishy balls that will do the same kind of thing. You could do this activity on a water table, put the shapes down in a water. Also, one thing I love about this is that these are light table pieces that we bought you because everything that we chose for you, we wanted you to be able to use in multiple ways. So we bought these that could go on a light table. Now, there is a lot of advantages to sensory bins, and I want to open up that conversation in just a minute to talk about with everyone, okay? Because you all have experience with children who are different than the children that I've worked with. And I've worked with children who are different than the children that you've worked with. And so the things that I have used might not work for the learner that you're thinking about. You might know something that's going to work for my learner. So that's why I think these conversations are going to be so important. We know that access, just like what Caitlin was talking about a minute ago, access to sensory bins is important for children who might have some type of sensory processing disorder. Now, for those of you who have not worked with me before, my son has autism. And so he has a sensory processing disorder. I have spent a lot of time with occupational therapists, okay, from the time that he was a baby. And we had all sorts of sensory integration work that had to be done. And so it is through exposure, through things like touching this or touching sand, and sometimes even making a mess with it. That is how we integrate those senses. And that's beyond even the math that we're talking about today, okay? That's why we intentionally brought a sensory bin in. Now, as far as the filler, you use the material that is safe for your children. If you think it's safer to use rice than these plastic beads, then you fill it with rice, okay? If you think kinetic sand is a better filler, then you fill it with kinetic sand. If you think a water table is a better sensory activity, then you would use a water table. So I think you know your kids best, and sometimes it's trial and error, and what works at the beginning of the year might not be what works at the end of the year, okay? This could very much be a calm down bucket. Like take your hand right now without thinking about anything with math, okay? This is what I'm doing right now while I talk to you. And I want you just to squeeze it and just let it come out your hands. Squeeze it hard, and let it come out your hands, okay? Even just the fine motor aspect for a very young child, my younger son has autism and cerebral palsy. He's had a stroke. So one side of his body, he would be able to, especially when he was 3 and in preschool, squeeze that and hold it. But to be able to open that was going to be difficult. So then practice just opening it and letting it come out your hands. Okay. Do you feel why we call this a sensory material? Do you feel that? Now, One thing that's good about this one, and it's different than kinetic sand, is that it's not sticky. So it's not like you're gonna have to go wash your hands when you finish with it. Okay, it's not like slime. That's one thing I do like about this. But I think that you know your kids and you use the material that's appropriate for them. Now, as far as Caitlin's question, what would I do for a child that didn't want me to sit with them in small group and work on this? So first, I would say, and this is true for every math manipulative and every reading manipulative, just like the first time you enjoy a book, if you're thinking about dialogic reading, the first time you enjoy a book, you just enjoy that book. The first time you get out the sensory bin, you just enjoy that sensory bin. The first time the child sees this sensory bin, it truly just needs to be a play sensorial exploration. And I did that even with when I would work with 5th and 6th graders. If we were going to do something with place value pieces and the hundreds, tens, and ones, the first time they saw those, they just explored with them. They could build up, they could build towers, it could be blocks, they could make numbers, they could do anything they wanted with them. The child is 100% going to need time just to explore this through play first. Okay, that might even be true of your measure worms. We're going to need time to just explore those measure worms first, just like you enjoy the book first. Okay, so if you give them time to do that, sometimes it will help them work with you later. Okay, because they know and they have trust that, okay, if I play with Miss Jamie or Miss Allison for a little while and what she wants to play, then I'm going to get to play how I want to play too. Okay, so that's the first thing I would do. The second thing is what Caitlin said about making copies of the book and the pages and letting the child do it independently. Absolutely, that would work. If I were going to make copies of these pages, I think what I would do is I would go over the lines, because one great thing is the sensory aspect of that book also of being able to trace, and I would put popsicle sticks or yarn or something and laminate it so there was a texture on there that they could feel, as far as, okay, I'm going to trace that square and then I'm going to feel the square in here. So I would make sure they still had that accommodation. And that's not just for your children that might have sensory processing or might prefer to work independently. I would do that even just to put it in a center, like once they had done it with me and we had explored it as something that they could then explore by themselves. Okay. I hope that helps a little bit. That's just based on my experiences. Sensory bins are so important because they do help with sensory integration. So where the child is struggling with that, through more exposures, it will help integrate those parts of their brain and they'll be able to move to different types of sensorial experiences. Okay. Like an example for my son is only through repeated exposures to lights out in public places. Like if you ever look up at Walmart, have you ever been in Walmart and looked up? There are lights everywhere. Only through repeated exposures to those lights and in that kind of environment could I get him to not sit and stare at the lights the whole time we're in Walmart, so he could take in the other environment that was around us. Now, if we're like at a movie theater, I know he's going to have time to sit and look at that projector. Okay, he's going to have some time to process that. And then he'll be able to enjoy the movie. Okay, which is also complicated. You have to be careful because he has epilepsy also. Okay, so when you're running this balance, I want you to know that I do understand that balance. The truth is, what works for one child will not work for a different child. But I do know from working with occupational therapists that it is through those exposures and scaffolded approach to those exposures. Like at first, maybe there's not even the shapes in it, or maybe first they just explore with the shapes and then we put them in here. Okay, or maybe it's not this type of texture sensory bin the child needs, maybe it's a light table. But I would encourage you to incorporate as many different types of sensory experiences in these explorations as you can. Is there anything else? Caitlin, is there anything else you want to add, or anyone else in the room wants to add, or questions?
I think you hit everything well. Thank you.
Okay, good. I hope it wasn't too much. I know it's hard. I know that's really hard. And so I always want to validate.
And we know that all children, no matter the diagnosis, they have different needs. I mean, a label is just that, it's a label. It's like saying I'm female. Well, all females are not the same, so that's something else we truly believe in.
Absolutely.
Understand.
So for the sake of time, we're going to do some sorting with our next activity. We also did some sorting with this one. As I would pull them out of the bin with Jamie, I would say that's a trapezoid or not a trapezoid, just reminding you that that's how you start sorts, as what the object is and then everything else. Okay. And then you can get into, does it have 4 sides? Does it have 3 sides? You can get into more complicated sorts. But the first sort that you would have children do is what it is and everything else. Okay. And we will do more sorting here in just a minute. Okay. The next thing that I would do, here we are. Did I skip it? Hang on. I went out of order. There we go. Okay. The next thing that I would do with children, and this would work well for those children who love to explore things independently, is we would sing Old MacDonald Had a Farm, okay? Or Old MacDonald Had a Zoo, if you wanted to exactly match the color of this. And we would build it and we would sing it, okay? So I would get out, have a light table, or just have some white paper here. It would be really cool to do it on a white table if you have one in your classroom. You can build one actually with a scrapbook box and those pop lights you get at the Dollar Tree. If you take a clear scrapbook box and put wax paper on it and then put those pop-up lights in it, it works as a portable light table for children. Okay, I made those for my son when he was younger. These blocks would work really cool on that. What you do for this is you have a kid call out an animal. So I would say, okay, somebody tell me an animal. Call one out. Anybody? What was it? Pig? Yeah,
Yes.
a pig. All right. So you would sing, "Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O," and then you would sing, "Had a pig," and they would say, "Okay, let's build it." And so they would use their pattern blocks and build a pig. Okay, so everybody build a pig with your pattern blocks. You build a pig. I think that looks like a snout. What do you think?
It does look like a sound.
All right, I'm gonna
Let's
use
these for ears, you think?
Oh, sure. All right. So there we go. We built a pig. It's gonna be upside down. Let me turn it. You can buy into our pig here. Okay, so these are his ears. These are his eyes and his pig snout. Okay, so this is our pig. All right, so then we would build it and then we would sing it again. Okay, and then I would let another child at the small group table choose an animal, and we would have our light boards or just our paper, and we would build the pig. Okay, so you get another phonological awareness activity in there as you are singing and doing the sounds of the animal. I have included a template for you that you can download, and this will work for independent learners. If you have a child that wants to do it independently, this is a traditional pattern block things. You probably have these in your classroom, so that's why we're not spending as much time on it. And you would just let them build directly on the map. That's easier if you have them build directly on that map. Okay, I can just set my hexagon right on top of this. I can set my triangle right on top of this. If you want to scaffold it and make it a bit harder, then you just have them look at the picture of it and they build it on their own paper. That's more challenging. Okay, these are the colored versions. They also have a black line version. That the black line version will make it a bit more challenging. Okay, so you have 3 levels of scaffold there. The easiest one is for them to build directly on the map with colors. The middle version is the one where they use the black line master. And the hardest one is for them to look at the picture and try to build it on their own paper. Okay. Yeah, if you want to do this, can you hear me that? On a light board, you can print the black line master or that one on, old overhead copy paper. I don't know if you remember overhead copy paper. If you print that on that, you can use it on a light table, or you can put it in one of these clear plastic sleeves and trace it using a marker, and then take the paper out and set that on the light table, and it would give them the the mat for what the shape would look like too. So either one of those will work. We're gonna move on and talk about this really quickly.
We're gonna be taking our break.
And then we're gonna take our break when we finish this, okay? We'll take our break as they have their discussion for this one. We'll put
That
it all
sounds
together,
good.
okay? So the other thing that I want to talk to you about, we talked about you all got rhombus. You knew that right away. But the other thing sometimes with shape, I just always like to point out is I want you to take a look at the definition of a rectangle is a quadrilateral with, okay, so what shape do I have out right now? Yell it out to me. That is a square, okay? So I'm gonna read you this definition of a rectangle. It's a quadrilateral. Quadrilateral means it has how many sides?
4.
4, okay? So let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4. Does a square have 4 sides? Nod your head at me, yes or no, or shout out yes. Yes, okay? Does it have 4 right angles? 90-degree angles. 1, 2, 3, 4. It does. Got something in the way here. All right. Does it have opposite sides that are parallel? Okay, so parallel are lines that go on forever and ever and will never intersect. They'll never touch, okay? If I extend these lines here on each side, on the opposite sides, are they parallel? Yes, so these are parallel lines. These are parallel lines, okay? We do lots of things with parallel lines, okay? So these lines can go on and on forever. They'll never touch, okay? The diagonals are going to bisect each other. That means if I draw a line here, they're going to bisect each other, okay? So I want you to look at that. Is a square a rectangle? Does a square fit all of the definition of a rectangle? Talk about that at your table for just like 30 seconds. And I've got the definition written up there on the board. You can read it again. And you can look at your shape. So what do we think, guys?
We have some friends that are talking about how this really stretches our little thinking, that we're trying to get them to identify first what a square and a rectangle is. And so this is very advanced, but we understand it's necessary at the same point. But
Yes. So let me tell you, this slide is in here for you. This slide is not in here for your littles. Okay. The reason why I wanted to point this out to you, or we wanted to point this out to you, is just like we said, sometimes Mickey Mouse accidentally confuses kids when he describes the rhombus only as a diamond. If you have a child that comes up to you and they identify this as a rectangle, if they tell you this is a rectangle and you tell them they're incorrect, but later when they get in 4th grade and they have to learn the definition of the true definition of a rectangle, do you see how that can lead to misconception? It can. And so it's always new information. And I remember I was teaching before I learned that a square was a rectangle. I had been teaching for several years before I learned that a square was a rectangle. And I realized that, oh my gosh, I have told kids for years that that's not a rectangle. And then later, when they're identifying shapes and things in geometry, it is a rectangle. And so just what I tell young children is it's a perfect rectangle. A square has all 4 sides the same length. And that's how we identify a square, is that it's perfect. All the sides are the same length. Okay, it is a really, really special rectangle. It's so special, it has its own name. And so its own name is called a square.
And sometimes with kids, I might say, you're right. It's a rectangle. It's special and its name is a square. Just like you're a girl, but you're special. Your name is Allison.
Mhm.
So you're still a girl,
Mhm.
but your name is Allison. And the
Right.
same thing's true of the square. And they, not that they'll really get that, but it helps.
And they'll assimilate that, just like a child initially may call every furry animal a dog, right? Like if it has fur, it's a dog, right? Piaget did a lot of study on this, okay? If it has fur, it's a dog. But then over time, they learn, oh, you know what? Animals have fur that don't have dogs, that they are not dogs. There's cows, there's cats, there's mice, okay? So children will go through the same process with shape. And so we just want to approach it the same way. Square is the one that I have made mistakes on over the years, for a lot of years. You've made mistakes on over the years for a lot of years. And unfortunately, it's not something that I was not taught this in undergraduate. Whenever we did early math, we were not taught that, you know what, and obviously I never learned it in elementary school either, right? So, or it didn't stick with
I
me.
think you learned it geometry, but it's just a set of rules.
It was a set of rules that probably I was trying to memorize.
That's right.
And so I just want to bring that out, because just like Mickey Mouse can do that with diamonds, sometimes we accidentally do that with squares and rectangles. So it's a perfect opportunity to tell children, oh, you know what? You are right, it is a rectangle, but it has a really special name, and we call it a square because all sides are the same length. Okay. Any other thoughts on that you want to share? Caitlin, was there anything else? Or anyone else?
Ready?
Okay.
Okay. All right.
All right.
So at our break, we're going to give you a 10-minute break. And when you come back from break, and depending on some of you may be able to move around already, but move around a little bit, come back. It's going to be the same routine we followed before. You're going to look at your benchmarks and your standards. Then you're going to look at what Erickson says about sorting, about the kinds of sorting to do. There's 2 pages for you to look at here. So that's what we're going to do. Go to your break. When you come back from break, let's hit this. Let's
Just align it to the standards or Erickson.
That's right.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it. Okay.
So we're going to start 10 minutes.
10 minutes now, and we're going to pause that recording too, so that it doesn't sit there that long. Welcome back. So I asked that you look at the Google slide deck and you look at the Erickson slides and the benchmarks. I feel like you've already talked enough about those benchmarks, but I want you to really take a deep dive into those Erickson slides. And when you go to the slide, I think it's the second Erickson slide, the top, it talks about a binary sort. You know, Allison was using a binary sort earlier when she said for me to find the rhombus. I believe it was a triangle. Then yes, was it a triangle or not a triangle, I believe. So what it was and what it was not. And you had 2 stacks. It's either yes or no. That's the binary sort. You'll see all kinds of ways to do sortings. We talked about the first type of sort to ever do is an exact match. So, and Allison asked me to do an exact match. She asked me to find the rhombus. And I had to even close my eyes, which made it more challenging. You know, the first time you do it, you might not do that. You might really just look with your eyes and feel, you use all the senses that you can. So I just point out that Erickson, when you think about where to go next with sorting for some of your kids that seem like they've already really mastered sorting, it's amazing how far you can go. And it gives you all kinds of classroom activities too for your sorting. And you'll find those in your curriculum already. But this lets you see why and how it connects to those standards.
Okay. So we're going to jump right in and we're going to read this book together. We'll read this one all together and then we'll let you read the next one at your table group again. That way we have a blend. So if you just have one of these out per table so you can see the book, we will read and enjoy. Oh, we're going to stand up and do this?
We are going to stand up.
Let's stand up, guys.
We need to stand up. We've been sitting a lot this morning. I know you had a little break, but it's time to stand.
And you probably will remember that we did this in Haggerty. I'll turn the camera so you aren't just looking at our bellies.
That would be good.
That would be not good. You'll leave. Okay, so
Everybody stand.
all right, Barnyard Dance by Sandra Boynton. All right, stomp your feet, clap your hands. Everybody ready for the barnyard dance? Twirl. Jump in the twirl there. Okay,
We like a good chorus
I
line.
like a good chorus line. All right, bow to the horse, bow to the cow, twirl with the pig if you know how. She likes the twirl. Twirl's her favorite.
Mhm.
Bounce with the bunny,
I had a bunny come through my house the other
strut with the duck. She struts different.
morning. Rolling my shoulder strut.
I strut. I think it's like an Egyptian strut.
Yeah.
My mom has a shoulder roll.
But I
strut.
have a silver sneaker strut.
All right, spin with the chickens now. Cluck, cluck, cluck.
I see a bunch of spinning.
I do. I love it. Bye. With a bye and a moo and a cockle-doodle doo. Everybody promenade 2 by 2. Nope. Arm out. Okay.
Oh, I feel like it's Bridgerton now.
Prance with the horses. Skitter with the mice. Swing with your partner once or twice.
We better just do once. You might fall down.
Yeah. Stand with the donkey. My favorite. Slide with the sheep.
The electric slide.
Scramble with the little chicks. Cheep, cheep, cheep. Neigh and a moo and a cock-a-doodle doo and another little promenade 2 by 2.
Lot of
Trot with the
dancing.
turkey. Trot with the turkey. Leap like the frog. Take another spin with the barnyard dog. Oh my gosh, I'm smiling so hard the back of my head hurts. Makes me laugh.
It's good for you.
All right, turn with the cow in a patch of clover. That's the one you cross your arms.
Okay.
All right, turn.
I know we were gonna do the crossover.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Oh my gosh. Take a bow. And the dance is over. With an oink and a quack, and with an oink and a moo and a quack, 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 the dance is done. But we'll be back.
That's right.
Give yourself a hand. All right. Now, our very first activity. I'm not going to turn the screen back on for this one. We're just going to do it because we're standing. So I have my little paper bag. And then I made copies. And this may be the second activity, but we're going to do it first because we're standing. I can't remember which order it is right now. No, it's right. I was in the right order. Okay. I have made copies of the book. Okay. I put them in a little PowerPoint, printed them out, cut them out, and I'm going to stick them in my paper bag. So for our first activity, we're going to do a gross motor and measurement oral language activity with this book. Okay. So Jamie, I'm going to ask you to draw one out randomly.
Hope it's one I like. I got 2. Hold on. Bounce with
The bunny. All right. So we're going to set a timer. We're going to have you stand up. Okay. And we're going to set a timer for 15 seconds. If you have an Apple Watch, you might want to turn your exerciser on for this because you could probably get some credit. Okay. 15 seconds. We're going to bounce like a bunny. Ready, set, go.
15 seconds. is a long time.
It is a long time. We're going right on this camera.
The house is gonna fall down.
2, 1, stop. Okay. All right. Feel your heartbeat. Feel it in your throat or hand on your chest. If you have a funnel, you can listen. Wow, your heartbeat's going really fast. Would you like to listen to mine?
Yeah, wow, like a bird.
Okay, so feel your heartbeat. Is your heartbeat going faster or slower? Faster, faster. Okay, so let's do one more. Let's cheat on this one. We can see the opposite. This time, we're going to stand like the donkey and we're going to do some deep breathing. Okay, we're going to do it for 15 seconds again. I'm going to start the timer and I'm going to put my hand up. And if you've been with me before, you've probably seen this. Whenever you trace your finger up, you breathe in, trace it out, you breathe out. Okay, I'm going to start the timer. We're going to stand and breathe like the donkey. Ready? Breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Now feel your heart. Is it beating faster or slower? Slower.
Oh, my
A
soul.
lot slower. Okay. So that's a really fun activity, gross motor activity, to bring in a little math and discuss how things move faster and slower. It ties well with Herman the Worm because it also is about healthy choices. There are all sorts of things you can do. There's like leap like the frog, there's twirl, there's promenade, and you don't have to do it 15 seconds. You can do it 5 seconds. Okay, you can do it 10 seconds, but it can be a really quick gross motor transition activity. Or if you pull out like the stand like a donkey, it's a mindfulness activity. I like to intermingle them both in there.
I'll say this, the 15 seconds with the donkey went much faster than the bunny jump.
Did y'all feel that? Did y'all feel like the 15 seconds on the donkey went faster? Yeah.
Or slower to me, the donkey was faster. Yeah. Gotcha.
Okay. All right. So that is a really fun measurement thing you can do. This is from the Dollar Tree. And it is just an oil drip funnel. Any funnel will work. I like an oil drip funnel because it doesn't get too much in someone's personal space. You can also use a stethoscope. It'd be cool to put this in a dramatic play area if you had like a doctor's office or something, because you can hear each other's heartbeats. I do clean it off in between uses, just like you would any other toy. Stethoscopes also work, but you don't have to have anything, because the good thing about your heartbeat is if you've got it up, you can even put your hand on your chest or kids can hear it in their ears. Okay. To talk about, is it beating faster? Is it beating slower? And I gave us a break. I originally planned to do those 30 seconds each.
Thank
Okay.
goodness.
All right, let's share our screen now. Okay. So let's get ready for our next activity. That's what I had to get the materials out for. I'm going to take my cards out of my paper bag and I'm going to put my spoon. I'm going to mix them up because I've got them in order right now. So I'm just going to mix them up. But if you take a look at these, they have the number and then they also have the number of spoons on there. Thank you for doing that. Makes it even easier. Those are all of the materials. I just taped the faces on those animals. That shows you two different ways you can tape them. You can tape them so they lie across the top like a lid and the kid has to open it up. Or you can tape them like I have it today, where it's just sitting on the cup. I do like using clear cups for these because they can see what happens as it gets more full. So what we do for this one is, I was seeing if I had that note on there. What we're going to do for this one is we're going to use our sensory bin, and you will randomly select a card from your bag. I'll let you randomly select a card from the bag.
Ooh.
Okay, show them what you got. Okay, tell me what you've got. How hungry is your animal?
My animal's very hungry because my animal needs 5 scoops of food.
Okay, 5 scoops of food. So Jamie, I'm gonna need you to feed your animal, and you guys can feed your animals along with us. Again, it's okay if you don't have yours totally put together yet, because you might want to laminate yours first.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I had heaping scoops,
You-
not level
She did have
scoops.
heaping scoops, okay? Now, Jamie has excellent fine motor skills. If I were doing this with littles who were still working on those fine motor skills, I might just plant these cups right in the sensory bin just to alleviate some of that mess. So when they dump, if they miss it, it's gonna go back into the sensory bin instead of on the table.
You haven't had that happen before.
I've
have you?
had it happen a lot. If you do not want to clean up something this fine, if your children are really still working on how to use a spoon, then you can put larger things in there. Like you could put those toddler materials, like I mentioned earlier, like the large balls, or biodegradable packing peanuts. You can buy them as, let me show you. You can buy them as a craft material. I just happen to have some right here, not for this purpose. See how they're larger? Those would be, if you buy them as the packing peanuts, they're just white. If you buy them as the craft material, they are multicolored and they are safe for 3 and up. They do melt in water. So if a child puts them in their mouth, they will melt in their mouth. I believe they're made out of cornstarch. So of course, if you had a child that had a gluten or corn allergy, I'm not sure how that would work, but again, it's, you know, your kid's best. So as far as the material on that. Now, one thing I really like about this activity is obviously it is counting, and it has all of the numbers. If your children are only working on numbers through 5, then you just put out the cards 1 through 5. I think we did include cards for 1 through 10 on there. So they can choose their animal they want to feed, scoop it in. It's just another fun use for your sensory bin. But I'm also hearing from more and more parents and preschool teachers that the children are really struggling with some self-help and adaptive skills. If you think about those standards and how do you use a spoon, this is a great way to practice using a spoon. If you don't want to use a spoon and you want to use something that's larger, if this is too hard, then I would encourage you to use. I keep a sensory bin out for my son, for him to explore just for some OT practice. And what I use for him, and I should probably put a spoon in there because he could use some practice, is I use these scoops. If you don't have these, you can get these at Hobby Lobby or Michael's. I just looked it up actually for ECLA because I'm planning to do a sensory bin next year. And a set of,
And they're going to be
and
there.
you're going to get one, but that, I think that kit's not till January, February. So if you want one earlier, I think they're just like $1.99 per set, but this has helped him use a spoon so much. So it's a great way to put a fine motor, adaptive help in there with some literacy and math. Do you have any questions about feeding the farm? Or what questions do you have might be better? Okay, I'm going to move our farm out of the way now. Up there. And Jamie, I'll let you
Okay.
lead this part.
Absolutely. So when we look at, again, we're going back to number sense and about counting, you see that we've given you lots of experiences today. You know, we haven't gone on a number scavenger hunt, but we have asked you to find things that were similar size on a scavenger hunt. But these same tasks that we've been doing would work. So this gives you lots of ideas of how to extend what we've done. You talk about developing a visual number sense. You know, we love the dot cards. I love that, all that work that you do with moving the dots on the cards and seeing if after they can recognize like a 3, what does a 3, what does a 5 look like?
And we created these cards with the dot card pattern in mind with the spoons.
Yes. And we know all that makes a difference. All that about collection. Can you just immediately identify that as a 5 because of the pattern of the dot or pattern of the spoons that are like the dot? You know, all of that comes with number sense. We talk about magnitude, and I know that your standards really go to 5, but you can go on to 10. And so that this again gives you lots of more ideas about how to extend. So use your Erickson to go, take a deep dive. And if you have children that need to go on, Erickson's a really nice way to look at that, because let me remind you of this. Allison always says this. Erickson doesn't just stop at preschool. It goes all the way through age 8. So often we'll have a child that's already, they've got it here. Well, these Erickson slides can really help you think about that, because I know that's difficult. It's just as difficult when we see that a child already has that, and what do we do next? Than if we're trying to figure out what to do if they don't have that concept.
Right. And that's what's hard. I mean, about teaching, especially young children, is you constantly have that in your mind, not just the kids, what they don't have or need additional adaptations, but your children who are already there. And what do you do for them?
The notion of the continuum of progression. That's why this is written like a progression.
And that's the beauty of, go ahead, but that's the, while you switch slides, that's the beauty of all of these activities, is they're really universally designed and multisensory. So a sensory bin can be used by a child who is exploring their senses, or is just counting the shapes, or just exploring the shapes, noticing how they're different, noticing how they're the same, or they can be used for sorting the shapes. Okay, so like every activity that we've done, like if you had a child, speaking of adding more, adding less with Feed the Farm, it could be, oh, you know what, you fill those cups up. Like we talked about, that activity I modeled for you, I only modeled it with adding more. I should have modeled it for you with taking away. So you could start out with the animal. Oh no, we've overfed the animals. Let's pull out how much we need to take away now. And the child's going to take out 3 scoops instead of adding in 3 scoops. Okay, so they really are universally designed. You can mold them to be what matches the child's need. I'd like for you at your table now, this is a book you have already enjoyed in our Haggerty training. Hopefully you've used it with your learners. We're going to give you just a couple of minutes to read this book at your table together instead of us reading it to you. And then we will lead you through our last set of activities with this book. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to read this book. It's a pretty fast read. If they finish before I start, if someone could just let me know so we don't have wasted time. Okay, I'm gonna get that together. Okay.
Okay, we finished reading them.
Okay, well, let's get started then. The materials that you'll need for this activity is this touch and match. So while I'm explaining the directions for that, if one person per table will open this box and go ahead and open, you can see I have mine open and just out. The other material that you will need is in the big brown box. And when you pull it out, it's a mystery box like this. Okay, those are the 2 things that we'll use for these 2 activities. We will start with the touch map. So you read this book by yourself, but I'm going to read to you my favorite page from this book, or my favorite verse from this book. And it starts on this page. And it says, all the world can hold quite still. Nanas, papas, cousins, kin, piano, harp, and violin. Babies passed from neck to knee. All the world is you and me. I love a lot of the pages in this, but that's the one that really resonates with me. So I want you to take a look. So I want to share that experience with you because it's important. I want you to take a look at that page that shows all the family together in their house. Okay, that's the page we're going to use for this next task. Okay, I want you to look at that page. I want you to think about your own homes and when you have all your family together. Okay, and then I want you to open up and take a look at all your random collections here. Okay, and I want you to find, okay, I want you to find, I'm not going to give you a certain number of items. I just want you to find some items that you think might be found in that location. So in this example, we're going to be looking at in your house. Okay, what are some items that you see in here that you think you might find in your house? Now, I have taken some paper and I have made a 5-frame just using construction paper. Okay, I just cut my construction paper into pieces and taped it together to help me count. If you have a piece of paper, you can just draw a 5-frame to help you count. Or at this point, you can just know that that might be something you do for your children, but you probably don't need help counting to 5, okay? I'm going to go ahead and count mine on my 5-frame, okay? So I'm going to just think aloud as I do this. You go ahead and look, and let's look for some things we might find in our house when we're together. I see, okay. Oh my goodness, something that I see sometimes when we're together is I love when we eat together. So here's an ice cream. I'm gonna put the ice cream on there.
I see something when we're together is that our big boys, oh, they did this on Sunday. They played football together in the front yard, the big boys did.
And we're outside a lot. So I'm gonna put a tree because we enjoy being together outside, and you have all those trees down from this tornado.
We do. Oh, and I think that I'll put a sponge because this reminds me of when we wash dishes after we've had a little bit of fun eating again. Seems like eating's a pattern.
Mm-hmm. So I think that's enough
Okay.
for now. So I'm going to count. We found, let's see how many items we found that made us think of our home together. We found 1 ice cream,
2 football,
3 a log,
4 a sponge for washing.
and we have 1 blank spot. So we
did.
found 4 items in our collection that made us think of being at home.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. How many items did stretch? How many items did you find, or have you had time to look now in your collection?
Yes, we're still opening all the materials. Some of us are. but
Okay.
we're exploring.
Take your time. They are a lot of little packages to open. It's good to have time to do that now, though. And this will work for so many different pages. So like we could start it over and I could turn to the page that's the cafe and I could say, okay, what are some items we think we might find at a cafe in here? Can you go ahead and find something while they open?
Yes. Oh, at the cafe, I might need my key because I'm gonna need my car key to be sure to, when I leave the cafe, I always put my keys when I'm at the diner out so I don't lose them because I lose my keys a lot.
Mm-hmm. You know what? Sometimes when you eat places, they have peanuts
Mhm.
out on the table. So I'm gonna put a peanut. I might find that in a restaurant.
I'm gonna put this nice hat out because sometimes when we're eating out, I like to wear a nice hat, especially when we're at the beach.
Oh yeah, if we were eating at a beach cafe. To me, this looks like the New Orleans cafe where the original place beignets were made.
Cafe du Monde.
Well, not Cafe Du Monde, the other one. The Cafe Du Monde is my favorite, but
Okay.
remember we went to
Oh,
the other
yes, I
place that
do.
they said was the original?
That's right. it
I
does.
love Cafe Du Monde, and that looks like Cafe Du
The
Monde,
green and white.
but
look
the
like
park
that.
looks like the other place.
Oh, yeah, the outside.
Mhm. So yeah, so that's, and then this time, how many things did we find? We found one
see.
key, 2 a peanut, and 3 a hat. So we found 3 things that made us think of a cafe.
Mhm, mhm. Lots of oral language.
That's what I was going to say.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm not cutting you off, but that's what I was just thinking, is that that's a heavy oral language activity. And just the skill to think about a place that you've been. It's really, although we're still using very much hands-on manipulatives, and we do have the picture example from the book, you're asking them to go to visual memory.
Mhm.
And that's why it needs to be really based on something they've experienced a lot in their own homes.
A lot of assimilation.
Mhm. So it really is a good bridge there for a scaffold.
Mhm.
All right, what are some things you found in your own home in there that you think your kids might say?
Hey guys, what are some things that you found in your own kit that you think your kids might make connections with?
Sweater. Oh, what are? Mhm.
They think that their kids will specifically have interest with all the sports stuff, like the footballs and basketballs.
Yeah. You know what? You could even do that. Like, what are some things you see on the playground? Or,
Yeah. Is that an orange or a ball? Do
oh, wait, I grabbed the orange. Whoops.
No, I don't know. I didn't know.
No, it was an orange. You're
okay,
right.
a playground ball.
Okay, what else do you think they might?
It's interesting how some things were labeled.
The other thing that's in this kit is picture cards of each of these items. There are picture cards to go with every item. So you could have to bridge that 3-dimensional to 2-dimensional, as we talked about that earlier in that scaffold. You could have them put down both. So if I put down the key, like my first thing I have here is the key on my 5-frame board. Right here. I could also put down the picture. I could put down the picture of the key with it. Okay, so that would be one way that you can practice moving from a tangible object to a picture of an object. So that's another scaffold that you can use with this material.
Be a very necessary scaffold for
Mhm.
many people,
Mhm.
many folks.
So there's just there's a million ways you can do that. That's how I like the scavenger hunt to go along with all the world, because really this has all the world of trinkets in it. As we think about phonological awareness, we use lots of little odds and ends for our activities when we did the Heggerty training. These materials would work really well for that too. If you're looking for something that starts with a V and a V sound, then you have a van in here. So you have a lot of different objects you can pull from here for phonological awareness also. Okay, well, that's that activity. So it's just a quick one, and it's directly related to the book. And I would use it on a 5-frame or a 10-frame. I have 5-frame here, but you can use it on a 10-frame if they're working through 10. Okay. So now hopefully you've had time to open up. It's okay if you don't have all of your items opened, if you would just have some of them opened. Either use your 5-frame or count out 5 items. You can pick any 5 items that you choose. And then we're going to place those 5 items in our mystery box. Okay. So I'll let you pick one.
Block,
You pick the hat.
pine cone.
You pick the shell.
A nice octopus.
Okay.
I did not pick the spider or snake
All right.
for good reason.
Yeah, she doesn't like snakes, and I do not like spiders. So before I begin this activity, I have a note on here just to remind you that one thing that I would do is take some time and just let kids play and explore, maybe through some phonological awareness tasks, or maybe just through having these out and letting them match. This is actually you can use this as just a touch and match game, where they touch the items and they find what matches, which is sort of what we're going to do here in a minute. And I would make anchor charts that list different attributes. So what's a way, everybody touch the shell. If you have your shell open, what are some attributes of this shell? How could we think about our oral language and how could we describe this shell?
Someone shouted out bumpy.
Oh, it is bumpy. It's
Mhm.
very
Nice
bumpy.
word, bumpy.
Yep. What else?
Rough and sharp.
It is rough and sharp. Feel that. That's a
Mhm.
really spiky shell.
Mhm. Pointy even.
Uh-huh.
Sharp, pointy. Ooh, it can hurt your feet. When I used to stay with Allison when her babies were little and I wake up in the middle of the night and Elijah was little, I would step on things like that when he was little.
Like an action figure or a Lego. I feel like that would feel similar.
Yes.
Okay, so and then I would pick something that's the opposite, like so this sponge. You know, how might we describe the sponge?
Squishy.
Squishy, especially if it's been wet. It's still bumpy though, isn't
It's a
it?
little bumpy, but
Yeah.
it's more smooth. It's smoother than the shell.
Now let's feel something really smooth, like the octopus, right? Or the car. It's very smooth. Okay, so what I would do is I would take some time before this activity and just explore naming attributes of a lot of different things. That works really well in a science center. Put it with a magnifying glass. You can let them sort based on different attributes. It really, again, becomes a sensorial experience. You could put some items in a sensory bin. I probably wouldn't put this in a sensory bin. I think it's too sharp. I think there are some shells you could put in a sensory bin, but mine is even broken on one part. I probably wouldn't. I think it would get crushed. But you can put pine cones in a sensory bin. And you can put blocks in a sensory bin. So you decide how you want children to explore with things and describe it. And then you would be ready for this type of activity. Okay.
Yeah, this activity is so nice. You could use it whole group, you could use small group or individually. Or
And I may do all of those things.
independently.
I may do it whole group with a think aloud, as me thinking aloud to sort of model that for them, and then do it small group with just a couple of kids, and then put it out for them to explore independently. Okay, so you've got this big, nice box. What's cool about this is if you're doing it in small group and you're working with two children, you can put your hand in one side, they can put their hand in the other, or you can have two kids with their hands in their feeling. Okay. I didn't realize that for a while that it had the holes on both sides. So we're going to take the 5 items that Jamie and I counted out on our board, and we're going to put those in. So you count them 1, 2,
3.
4. You can do the last one if you want.
Okay.
Okay, 5. And so I know the items that went in there, and I'm going to pick the one that was my favorite. So you want to shake them up a little bit, or like a bingo thing. All right, and then we're gonna put them down. All right, put your arm in, and I'm gonna give you clues. Okay.
Okay.
I would like for you to find an item that is bumpy.
Bumpy. Ooh, bumpy. I found bumpy, Sharpie bumpy.
Okay. Can you find another item that's bumpy? Move all the ones that are bumpy towards the front. Okay. I would like for you to find an item that feels like part of it is round.
Okay. I found 2 that have rounds.
Oh, 2 that are round and bumpy?
2 that are round and bumpy. One has
Okay.
bigger bumps.
2 that are round and bumpy. Okay, I'm going to give you another clue. You ready? If you push your hand on this one, it'll give a little bit. It won't keep its shape. It's flexible. It won't keep its shape.
Look right there. We didn't put that one in.
That's not the one I'm talking about.
It will keep its shape. It won't keep its shape.
No, it'll kind of smash a little bit.
Okay, I found one to smash a little bit. Not a lot though.
Just a little bit.
Okay,
Okay. All right. Is it bumpy?
it is bumpy.
Is it a circle?
Yes,
Is it squish a little bit?
it does.
All right, pull it out. You found it. It was the hat. That was my mystery object. Okay.
That was really hard for me.
All right. So I want you all to play a game like that at your table. So you don't have to put in 5. If 5 is too many, you might just put in 2 items. Okay. And show them the items that you put before. If you want to make it easier, you show them, hey, I'm putting in a block and an octopus, and I'm going to give you clues and you find the right one. If you want to make it more challenging, don't show them the objects you put in and put more of them in there. We're going to give you about 1 minute to play that game.
I needed to have less.
I did make yours harder. I gave you the advanced version.
Yeah, when you were saying squishy, I thought you meant the sponge.
I knew you thought I was froggy. I can tell by your face.
That's scary. That was in there.
I told you I was afraid that shell was going to break. That's the part of the shell.
Mhm.
I would be skeptical about the shell. Ours anyway. Maybe
Maybe
all
it
of them are
needs to
like
be
that.
put inside a container.
Yeah.
Like a little Ziploc or
Mhm.
something.
I'm worried about that shell. Okay, about 20 seconds left to explore that activity. I'm going to show an easier variation of it. Okay, so hopefully you had time to explore that. Raise your hand if you were able to guess your mystery object, if you were able to get it. Raise your hand so I can see. Okay, good job. All right, I'm going to show you an easier variation of that, okay, that might be easier. I'm not going to show her what I'm putting in here. These are the 2 items I'm putting in here, okay? Oops. All right, now Jamie, stick your hand in there.
Love the dancing. I'm just seeing the dancing class.
Okay, and I want you to tell them what is one way those 2 objects are alike?
They both, if I traced around both of them, it would be a circle. The net would be a circle.
Okay, how do you think a kid might say it?
They feel like a circle.
Okay, so they feel like a circle. What's one way they're different?
One is squishy and one is hard like plastic.
Okay, so let's pull out your 2 items. Okay, so we have the hat and the octopus. So now we're going to look at them and tell me what's one way that they're similar. So you already said they're both circle. So we can see that. They both are round, right? They have a circle sort of shape to them. So
Mhm.
what's another way they're alike? Now that you can see them, it's a straw hat and an octopus.
Another way that they're alike is that they're smaller than the box.
Okay, they are smaller. What's one way that they're different?
One is smooth and one is bumpy. We said that already. One is taller than the other.
Yeah.
If I stand it up, the hat's taller than the octopus, but
Good.
not by much.
Okay. Do you hear all of the oral language opportunities there? So that was a scaffolded back version of the same task. And so you might decide to start there. You could even start with just one object and practice attributes feeling it only and attributes when you look at it. Okay. And then you can get into the comparison and the contrast. Now, remember, if I ask her ways that they were alike, I always ask her ways that they were different too. That goes into that more and less idea. Okay. If you ask one way to compare, you always ask the opposite way to compare also. And that's something I have to remind myself all the time. So that's another variation for that one. We are going to, I'm going to just tell you about this one because we have one more thing that we need to do, and I want to honor your time and get you out at your time that you're supposed to be out. Okay. And we have the next thing is really important. I don't want us to miss. Okay. So what I would do for children with this is I would say, oh my goodness, it's time to tidy up. And we have all of these little shapes everywhere. And so I would say, okay, I need you to help me organize these. I only have 2 bins. I have 2 bins that I can sort these in. And so that goes back to what we talked about with our shape sort.
The binaries.
The binary sort. So I could say, okay, I'm going to put everything that's brown in one box, everything that has brown on it in one box, and I'm going to put everything else in the other box. Okay. Or I could do everything you may find outside in one box and everything else goes in the other box. Okay. So that's how I would start. And I would start with 2 bins. As children become, have more exposures to sorting, you can add more bins. But cleaning up random objects and just acting like you need their help is a great way to practice a sort. Okay. Let you share that and then we can.
Again, we talked about this already. We talked about shapes, and we've mainly talked about 2-dimensional shapes today because we talked about the circle, the square, the rectangle, but we could have moved into 3D. And again, that's something else that you can do with kids that need that are ready. You can, use the names of 2D and then extend to 3D and I did throw out a word to you that was the word net. So even with something that's 3D, it casts a net, and kids like to think of that, casting nets a little bit. So, and not that I expect them, like Allison said earlier, not that we expect our littles to remember that, but just you use that language, they'll understand what you mean by that, because some of them have even used a net before for fishing or for, with butterfly or just playing with nets. They like to do that. So
That's the end of our hands-on portion of the training. Now, we know you have this Google slide deck already. So if you will click this link, we would love to get some feedback from you about what we've done, but also to help us plan moving forward. As we shared in the beginning, we are so excited that we're going to be able to work with you in May, hopefully face-to-face.
And you're going to come to Gret.
And so just like if you were with us last year, this form starts out a little bit similar. It's going to have your email. You're going to put your name in. How are you feeling today? We always like to just start by checking in on you. And then literacy and math. Thank you so much for joining us for today's session. Share a task or 2 from today's session that you plan to use with your children in the coming week. So what's one thing that we did today that you think, yeah, I think I could take that and implement it like in the next month or so with my kids? The next question is Heggerty's Phonological Awareness Curriculum. Okay. Share 1 or 2 things that have gone well as you implemented Heggerty into your classroom. Okay. The next question is also about Heggerty. At our May 19th ECLA workshop, we will have a Heggerty 2 session for you all. Okay, some people will go to Heggerty 1 and they'll do a shortened version of what you all did in November. We're going to have a separate session for you all. What would you like to see included in this session? So for example, questions you have about implementation, or do you just want additional tasks or center ideas to support the skills, the phonological skills that Heggerty is working on? We know sometimes the kids will need more practice and more hands-on ways to approach those skills that you're also practicing in the Heggerty curriculum. That would be something we can do. Or if you have any specific questions or things you just want to network and discuss with other teachers, you can put those there too, okay? So it's really wide open. And then the last question is the same as it always is anytime we do a Google form. Is there anything else you want to share with us? We appreciate all you do and look forward to continuing to work together and seeing you face to face. So that's just an empty spot. It doesn't have to be long answers. It can be just a sentence or a few words, but we really would appreciate hearing your thoughts.
And if you're watching this through the recording, we invite you to go ahead, because you'll have the Google slides at that time too.
Yeah, we're
go
not taking
ahead
it down.
and yeah, we're not taking this down. Please let us know. All your voices are important to us.
Yes. Okay. So we wanted to give you time in this workshop to fill that out. We do have 9 minutes. So while you're filling that out, if there are any questions that you have or anything you want to talk to us about, we'll take it off of screen share. And we'll be glad to talk with you about that. So I'm going to stop screen share because they've got it up on their computers.
I'll stop the recording.